Yeah, this could go hideously wrong. Hideously wrong. I mean, I know how many retakes I do when I make a video, so this could go all sorts of pear-shaped. I thought I'd try a live stream, and we'll see how well it goes. If it works out all right, maybe I'll do it a bit more regular. Today, though, I thought what I'd do is I'd talk about the new Star Trek series, because a couple of days ago I'd done a video about the new proposed Star Trek series that is coming out, or should be coming out, maybe coming out. I don't know. Are they coming out? But yeah, I thought I'd talk about that because when I put that video out, it was based upon an article that I saw, and since then, people who have dropped comments into my comment section on my YouTube video, in particular Philip Hawkins, who has a great YouTube channel in and of himself, but pointed me in the direction of the Hollywood Reporter. And when I saw that article, it was much more informed than the article that I read. The one that I read was a lot of rumor and conjecture and stuff, but the Hollywood Reporter seems to have got a much more accurate report on what's going on with the Star Trek series. So I thought what I would do for this stream, just to test things out, is to actually take a look at this article and see what it has to say. Now, the chat is open in the live chat, so if you've got anything to say to me, you can say it in the live chat. And trust me, after some of the comments I've got and some of the videos I've made, I know people have got stuff to say to me. Just not very pleasant stuff. So yeah, it's all live. Let's take a look at this Star Trek article, shall we? And this is from the Hollywood Reporter, and it's Alex Kurtzman inks $25 million deal overall extension with CBS TV Studios with Expanse Star Trek TV franchise. Now the deal is $5 million per year for up until 2023, and just going through the article here, I'm looking at it, and it's crazy. It's I don't know how you can get from Star Trek Discovery to this sort of deal, mainly because I like Star Trek Discovery. I genuinely like the show. I think that it's trying to do something different and trying to do something new. But at the same time, it didn't land well with the fan base. Like, when we're talking about shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation and going to Deep Space Nine and Voyager, it had a really solid fan base. Like, it had a wide audience. It was being universally praised. It was in a really good position, in the same sort of way that when they came to doing Torchwood from Doctor Who, Captain Jack Harkness was a very popular character. Doctor Who was kind of at its peak. So when it came to doing Torchwood, it just seemed logical that, yeah, a positive spin-off show that was a bit more adult than Doctor Who would be logical. But in terms of Star Trek Discovery, so many of the fans just have pushed back against the series. There's things that they don't like. I mean, it's not just about the look of the show either, as well. People don't like the way that the Klingons are portrayed. I'm one of those people that I'm not really keen on the heavy, doughy makeup that they wear. And that's not a case of I don't like the look of the Klingons. I just don't like the actual them looking like potato faces. They look more comical than intimidating. And the outfits are gorgeous, by the way. The outfits that they wear. I mean, it's a shame that they can't move in them or move very well, because they're all sort of really sort of restricted in their shoulder movements and everything. They can't raise their hands above their heads. It's a weird thing. But so the fact that they've been in talks with Kurtzman about this 5-year deal, it just seems a bit odd. It just seems like, I mean, clearly, he's a good salesman and he can run a good pitch, because if this is to believe, he's landed a $25 million deal, and you don't do that unless you've got something up your sleeve. So let's start going through it. Under the new pact, Kurtzman will serve as Star Trek Discovery lone showrunner after taking over from Aaron Herberts and Gretchen Berg, who recently fired from the series. Kurtzman will also expand Star Trek franchise for the small screen, developing new series, mini-series, and other content, including animation. Now, I'm all for them doing an animated series, right? If they're going to go down the line of and following the Star Wars franchise, where Star Wars done the Clone Wars and Rebels, I'm all for that. I think that would be a good move for Star Trek, actually, provided that it was the material that they had was at a similar sort of standard to the shows. I don't think I'd want it to go down that sort of kiddie route. I don't want to see a Thundercats Raw version of Star Trek. But an animation would be, I think, would be okay. Again, I'm not really interested in seeing a Star Trek show that might revisit characters. That's not really that doesn't interest me. It just doesn't. But yeah, I mean, if they're going to do animation, like, they could do anything with animation, couldn't they? They could follow any sort of I wouldn't mind them doing an animation series that sort of went around the cosmos and sort of put together a story that was set on Romulus, set on Kronos, set on Earth, and able to work that in. But yeah, I think the animation route is a pretty good one. I think you could tell if you're going down the Clone Wars route as an example, you could tell some great story arcs spread over several weeks per story and actually have it go somewhere. That would be an interesting idea, because I love the Clone Wars. I think the Clone Wars is a brilliant. They made me care about Fives. Okay, the Clone Wars made me care about Fives. If you don't know who Fives is, it's heartbreaking. But yeah. The new deal comes as rumblings about another Star Trek series featuring Patrick Stewart. Now, this is another thing as well. When I read the original article, Patrick Stewart's name wasn't really mentioned. It was just talking about Picard. And I didn't even think that Patrick Stewart would even be attached. So this article says that it's actually dealing with an older Picard. Now, I'm not sure, because if you go by TNG canon, he may end up with what's it called, aromatic syndrome. So a slightly crackpot version of Picard, maybe. Reprising his role as Star Trek: The Next Generation Captain Jean-Luc Picard have been getting louder. Sources say Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman, who left Discovery after season 1, are attached to the Stewart-led reboot. CBS Studios declined to confirm the Stewart project, as sources say a deal is far from completed and may not happen, despite the fact the actor recently... Okay, so the actor, Patrick Stewart, has teased the potential return to the franchise. The fact that they've declined to confirm the project and says that the deal is far from completed and may not happen means that they are actually talking about it. That means you can't decline to confirm and then turn around and say the deal is far from completed if there is no deal. So there is something going on. So that's really interesting. Well, I got Philip Hawkins. Hello. A Romulan War animated series could be good. Yeah. But I mean that's the thing with the animated series. I think they kind of blew out the with Enterprise, whereby I think a lot of people were expecting Enterprise to actually go into to do the Romulan War, and yeah, I think seeing the actual Romulan War would be a fun one. But again, they could go anywhere with the Star Trek series, couldn't they? With an animated series, they can literally they can literally go anywhere they like. But yeah, I mean, I think we'd all love to see a Romulan war. I think there's plenty of things, like when they done Discovery, they done the whole thing where they time jumped and they time jumped the Klingon War, so we never got to see any of these sort of like grand battles or any of this sort of these big sort of clashes between the two sides. We never saw any of that. We never saw any sort of bases being destroyed or anything. It was it was clever in a way to sort of cut that out, so that I mean, it's a money saver. But yeah, I mean, a series for the Romulan War, again, it's just one of those things. I think they did kind of shortchange people with Enterprise. I don't like to talk about Enterprise because my standpoint on Enterprise was the whole Xindi War thing just got my back up. It's not the route they should have gone down, in my opinion. I know, but they did what they did. I think they pulled it back in season 4, though. I think season 4 was definitely sort of Enterprise taking a strong stand. So where was I? This is a very short list of writer, producer, directors that every film and television studio wants to be associated with. CBS Television Studios president David Stampf said Tuesday in a statement, his talent, taste and ability to shepherd a successful project is unparalleled. Alex has done a remarkable work for the studio. I'll give him that. I think he is able to shell out stuff, and I think he is a good showrunner. I don't know about a script writer and story writer, but I mean, you can't be good at everything. You know, look, my personal feelings on somebody like Stephen Moffat is that Stephen Moffat is a great story writer. I just don't think he's a very good showrunner. Whereas I think with Alex, he is a good showrunner. I don't see him as being that great of a writer. But I think he's good at herding the right people and getting the right staff to make things work. And like I said, with Discovery, look, I am never going to like that ship. Right? It looks like somebody glued a frisbee to a boomerang and threw it. It's just a horrible looking ship. But what they've done by changing the series, you can't expect a show like Discovery, which is putting millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into a show, and get it to look like something that was made 55 years ago. It's just nobody is ever going to greenlight that. So you have to get over the fact that the bulb is a different shape, that the console doesn't look like somebody spilled a lot of jelly babies onto the console. And I'm one of these people that loves the original series. I do. I don't like it when they dick around and go back and change stuff. I was okay with them remastering the original series, from, you know, by changing the visual effects a little bit, but trying to sort of stay faithful to what they did. But, you know, it's a 55-year-old show. Just let it be. It is what it is. You can't, you know, and making these changes to the show doesn't change the narrative. It doesn't change the story. It doesn't make the story any better. All it does is just pretties it up. And I think with Discovery, you know, that's one of the things that I'm willing to sort of, you know, I can detach in my brain and just go, you know what, I'm not even going to call this a different universe. This is just a better looking version. And, you know, the sets, I find the sets, some of the sets are a bit sort of sci-fi generic, because Star Trek has a tendency to have a particular style to its sets. But even so, you can't knock the quality of them, the quality of those sets and costumes as well. Let's see, where am I? So yeah, this marks Kurtzman's second solo deal with the studio after splitting from former production partner Robert Orci. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I don't know, Orci. In 2016. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're talking about here, which is just about how the partnership and how they've expanded. And but yeah, I mean, the fact that they're talking about doing multiple TV shows now, again, it's a little bit on shaky ground. It says, Star Trek Discovery, meanwhile, has proven to be a success for the subscription platform CBS All Access. Okay, that's fair enough. But was it a successful series in terms of sales? Like, I get that it was a show that was successful for a streaming service, but how well did the show perform internationally? Because whilst you're making a show for the US network, that really doesn't do you a great deal. I know, obviously, like, it struck a deal with Netflix, okay? And I think Netflix paid for quite a bit of Star Trek stuff. That's what I get. Philip says, I understand updating the aesthetic for Discovery, but I'm less forgiving about introducing technology that should have... no, right, okay. The holographic things, you see, that's a touchy go, because how far away from like things like Star Trek 3 are we talking? And are you including the animated series into the original series as well? Canon's a tricky thing, because if you're talking about the Kirk era, then they did have holograms in Kirk's era. And the view screen and stuff like that is supposed to be a hologram, and they just didn't have the budget to do it. I would say that the holographic communications are a bit more Star Wars than Star Trek. But in terms of actually, they did have those sort of 3D holograms with the planes flying around, and I know that was Star Trek 3, but it's still the same sort of era. And then if you look at the animated, if you include the animated series into the canon and say, yeah, that's part of it, then they had a holodecks as well. So I mean, you're dealing with Star Trek canon, and it's one of those things that's really sort of up in the air. It's your personal own head canon, I think, at the end of the day, when it comes to when we talk about Star Trek. There's lots of stuff, because I don't like it when people talk about Star Trek and the original series, and they say this is wrong, that's wrong. There's this huge argument that people fall into about the direction that the bridge faces, because of the nub on the back of on the bridge. A lot of people think that the bridge is cocked at an angle, and some people think it's straight. And it's just like, Jesus, they put that door there for a reason, and the reason being that they didn't want... If they put the door behind the captain, then when it came to somebody making an entrance onto the bridge, they would be obscured by whoever was sitting in the captain's chair, so they shifted the door over onto one side. And that's the only reason why it is. And there's nothing to say that the nub on the back of the bridge is a turbo lift shaft. It could be a toilet. We don't know. But the amount of arguments people have over stuff like that. So when it comes to the aesthetics of Discovery, and again, I feel like they shot themselves in the foot when where they set Discovery. If they'd done it the other way and set it the other side of the Kirk timeline, I think they would have had a much easier time of it. But when you're dealing with Star Trek fans, I mean, Star Wars fans are just as bad, but Star Trek fans, when it comes down to the details, they'll argue about the power supply for a phaser. It's crazy stuff. So I tend to give them a break on... I give them a break on the look of the show. So yeah, I mean, it looks like Kurtzman's decision to remain to make his long-time home CBS Studios comes after the showrunner have begun to survey their options after Netflix recently poached prolific producers Shonda Rhimes. Okay, maybe that. Ryan Murphy. Yeah, okay. American Crime Story. I love American Crime Story. With 9-figure overall deals for his part, Greg Berlanti recently illustrated that you don't need to leave the broadcast studio system to score a 9-figure deal with his renewed Warner Brothers. Wow. To pack for $400 million. Jesus. These people are making ridiculous money. Ridiculous. Like, wow. So yeah, what else have we got? I think that's pretty much it. I think there's this whole this whole thing whereby it looks like he's proposing multiple Star Trek series. No, there was something about a Khan series as well, and I don't know. I think I'm guessing it was supposed to be set on during his years on SETI Alpha 5 with his wife and how she died and all that sort of stuff. I don't think we need to know anything like that. It's one of the reasons why I haven't seen Solo. I'm not boycotting seeing Solo, a Star Wars story. I just don't feel like there's anything you can tell me that I don't find out from episodes 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, it's just one of those things I don't need to know. I mean, I saw Khan when he was put on SETI Alpha 5, and I saw him when he left SETI Alpha 5. I don't need the bit in the middle. It's weird. But, I mean, if they are going to do a Star Trek series around Picard, that's a weird one. Like, I like the fact that they've thought about, we'll get Patrick Stewart back, but Patrick Stewart's not getting any younger. And, you can't really sort of plan a, 7-year deal with Patrick Stewart because, it's a horrible thing to say, but, he might not make the 7 years, and if he does, what sort of state is he in when he finishes the show? But yeah, I mean, I'd be keen to see the Star Trek animated show because, again, they can do anything with the animated show. They can do anything they want with the live action ones, but I think animation is a bit more forgiving. Oh, yeah, Philip has to go shopping. Well, have a good time shopping. It's a nice day out there. I'm going to be live streaming now for about another 10 minutes or so. I think I'll make this a short stream. I won't keep it too long. But yeah. Cheers, Phil. Thanks for dropping in. Thank you very much. Have a good time shopping. So, with that said, I think that's pretty much all we can talk about with the new Star Trek series. I think I'd just be rehashing stuff if I'm going to go and talk any more about the Star Trek series because there's really no more information than that. And I wouldn't necessarily call that information accurate, more than speculative and rumor, until CBS makes an actual announcement. Because, like it even said in the article, there are deals that might not even happen. So for the next part of the stream, I think I'm going to talk about The Expanse. If you're an Expanse fan, I think that we are in a good situation right now, whereby The Expanse has been picked up for Amazon. I'm a little bit gutted about that, I've got to be honest with you. Not that it was picked up, but it was picked up by Amazon because I've been watching The Expanse on Netflix. Yeah, not everything should go to Netflix, I get it, But I cancelled my Amazon Prime subscription because there wasn't anything on Amazon Prime that was really catching me. So I decided to cancel my Prime subscription, and and now it looks like The Expanse is being picked up by Prime, which means that it'll probably, once it's done leaving, once it's done with the run on Netflix, it'll never be on Netflix ever again, and it'll be back over to Prime. Gutted about that because I love The Expanse. A couple of, I don't know how long ago it was, but I did a video about Blake 7, about, how good the series of Blake 7 is, and, why they haven't rebooted it. And I've got to be honest here, when I saw the first, I guess it was like the first 4 episodes of The Expanse, I'm sitting there going, this is it. This is a reboot Blake 7, and because it had much of the things that if you watch the first season of Blake 7 in particular, it had many of those elements that were that you could associate with Blake. So you had a captain that was, or a commanding officer that was reluctantly in charge. You had a group of people that didn't necessarily get along that ended up finding this warship that they stole, and that they were going around trying to put things right. And it was just very Blake 7 to me. I mean, there were a lot of other elements in there, but I thought, if you were going to reboot Blake 7, that's what it would look like. And I do love me some Blake 7. It's a underappreciated show, I think, these days in particular. But yeah, so The Expanse introduced a lot of good characters. I felt that I'm going to say, I felt like the first episode really didn't move me that much to sort of go, because there were so many things going on. It was jumping from this person to this person to this person. It wasn't really following a single character. But then it took me a while. So it took me a while to settle into the show, I guess. But it was a great show. It was a great, fun season 1. Season 2, I've only got as far as season 2. I'm going to be honest here. I haven't seen anything of season 3 yet. But yeah, we get through season 2, and I literally, as I got to the end of season 2, the announcement came that Sci-Fi were cancelling it. And I was like, you gotta be joking. And I maybe this is just Sci-Fi's go-to move. I don't get it, right? But because Sci-Fi have done this so many times, whereby they start making a product, and then it ends up that they cancel it just when it's finding its audience. So yeah, but the fact that they picked it up now, it's been picked up by Amazon. I don't think I'm worried about Amazon, because I think Amazon will put the cash behind it. I think Amazon will get them to step the game up. I don't think that The Expanse is, because as good as The Expanse season 1 and season 2 were, I think one of the things you could look at with The Expanse is that it didn't look, it looked studio bound then, in some ways. That the environments that they were in didn't allow for sort of, you couldn't really walk through, because a lot of stuff was digitally added in. So it would show you this big establishing shot of this street, inside this dome, but then it would drift up to this one apartment, and that's where all the action would be set, is in this one apartment. They wouldn't really sort of leave and explore the world around. Whereas I think with Amazon, I think they'll actually step up the game actually and make things a little bit more expanded. But yeah, I love The Expanse. I love the physics that they bring into it. I love the fact that you've got characters playing one off against the other. That you've got Mars versus Earth. I find them making Mars a little bit Russian is that because the way they dress, the way they're the only people wearing these sort of red lapels and around the hat, and the stylization of their costumes is very sort of USSR. I find that to be, they could have done something else with that. And then of course we've got this whole alien creature thing with The Expanse. I don't know if you needed that really. I've got to be honest. I know they're following books here. I get that the Expanse is a series of books that they're following, but yeah, I'll have to see where it goes in season 3. I've got to be honest. Like I said, I've done season 1, season 2. I love season 1 and season 2. I'll have to see where that goes in season 3. But I am very happy that they picked it up for Amazon to have picked up the show. I would have been even happier, given that they already had a deal with Netflix, if it had gone there instead. But that's just because I'm a tightwad and don't like to spend out. So yeah, I think that'll do it for The Expanse. Really, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. The next thing I'm going to talk about now is Star Wars, and Kind of my disenfranchisement with the series of films. It's not. It's. I don't think if you've seen any of my Star Wars videos before now, you'll know that I've been a Star Wars fan for a very, very, very long time, as long as I can remember. And I just look. I'm going to say it. I'm not a new Star Wars fan. I'm not a fan of The Force Awakens. I think it's a really bad film. In fact, I can actually tell you what part of The Force Awakens it all falls apart for me. And it's literally, because I remember going to the cinema, right? And I had an early morning ticket for The Force Awakens. I was so hyped for the film. I was really pumped. I was up at 5:30 in the morning. I was 2 hours in traffic getting to the cinema. So I was really psyched for the film. And the opening scenes, the opening shots with Kylo Ren, where he does the whole stopping the blaster boat and everything, that was all really, really cool stuff. And I was really, really enjoying it. But it got to a further point in the film, and after watching The Force Awakens a couple of times, I kind of went, this is where it all goes wrong. This is the bit of the movie where it all goes wrong. And it's the part where they're on board the Millennium Falcon, it gets swallowed by that ship, and the door opens and it's Han Solo and Chewbacca, and from that scene forward, it just starts to crumble for me, and it just falls into this. It stops being this original stuff, and the other thing is that what it does is that it shuffles characters that you'd think would be, the front runners for these films. Because normally when you do a handover film, normally you would have the original cast be the front runners, you'd introduce the new cast, and then you'd slowly work out the older cast. That's generally how a handover goes. But in this sort of handover, it was the new cast and the old cast are in the background, and they're slowly phasing them out in the background. And yeah, I just didn't find The Force Awakens to be that invigorating. And by the time we got to there were scenes in the film where I'm sitting there watching the movie on the screen going, I can't believe they're doing this again. I cannot believe it's a Death Star. Oh, it's not. It's a Star Killer base. It's a Death Star. It's another in Death Star. Okay. So yeah, I mean that just left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I remember walking out of that cinema, and it's not this is how you can tell if you had a really good time in the cinema or if you didn't have a good time, and that's when you walk out. Are you ready to buy another ticket to go see it again? And for me, I just wanted to go home. I was just like I don't get it. I don't get it. And then, of course, Rogue One happened. And Rogue One, for me, was brilliant. Just brilliant. A side story, had absolutely nothing to do with any of the characters that we've ever seen. Unless, of course, you watched, like I said, the Clone Wars. And then there were a couple of characters in there. It was fun to see the Ghost in there and Chopper in the background. Just love that robot. He's such just a pain in the ass droid. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed Rogue One. Like, best Star Wars film they've made since Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion. Just amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. And then, of course, they do The Last Jedi, and The Last Jedi is all over the place. Like, it is just all over the place. You have 20 minutes of film or something like that, and then they jump back to the island where Rey, and they shall call her Rose, Rey is standing there still holding the lightsaber, and you just think to yourself, what is going on with this time? This time stream seems to be all over the place. And then you've got the whole stuff with Luke. I really didn't like the stuff with Luke. I think the Last Jedi is a better film than The Force Awakens. I do think that. But for me, the film is okay. And okay doesn't do it for a Star Wars film. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And even if you think that the film is really, really good, at this point it's mathematics now. It's not even an opinion. Even if you think the film is a great movie, if you look at the numbers tell a different story. And even if you think it's a crap movie, again, the numbers tell a different story again. So if you're going to look at a movie rating, and you look at The Last Jedi, you are looking at numbers being, if it's above 80% audience rating, you've made a great film. If it's below that, then you've made a really good film. If 75%, you've made a good film. 60%, it's okay. The Last Jedi's audience score, it's not 60%. It's not 55. It's not even 50. I think the last time I checked, it was something like 48%. And again, when I come around to talk about The Last Jedi and saying it's an okay film, it's kind of in the middle for me. 48%, that's kind of in the middle. So I think I got it right when I said that all the good in the film gets pulled down by all the bad in the film. Terrible characterizations, paper thin characters in The Last Jedi. Holdo is a terrible, terrible commander. And I get it. Like people have made this argument as well, right? Whereby they've said things like, well, Holdo, she doesn't have to justify herself to Poe, because Poe says, have you got a plan? Well, all she has to say is yes. She doesn't have to tell him what the plan is. She doesn't have to go into details. She doesn't do anything like that. All she had to do was say yes or no. I mean, either way, and she just blanks him, face palms him pretty much, and just walks off. And she does that all film, which leads to, all this rubbish side story that we get on Canto Bight. By the way, Canto Bight, it's an anagram of the words giant botch. Just so you know. Yeah, I left The Last Jedi with that whole, we didn't get anything great out of Luke, we didn't get anything great out of Rey, she didn't learn anything. According to Yoda, she's already a powerful Jedi, even though she has had no training whatsoever. Just really awful characterizations. And this isn't people make this goddamn sexist argument of, you're just a sexist. No, I'm not. No. Because, let me tell you something straight. If they make a new Alien, decide to reboot Alien, and Ripley ain't a woman, I'll play holy hell over that. Because there's no way I'm gonna tolerate that. Ripley should be a woman. And again, look, they're making the new Terminator film now with Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor. One of the best action. And again, I grew up at a time when people like Cynthia Rothrock was popular. One of my favorite films, and if you haven't seen this film, you should definitely check it out. If you're into sort of martial arts films, there's a martial arts film out there called Chocolate with Zhizha Yanning. That girl is amazing. Like, genuinely, absolutely amazing. And it's got one of the best end fight scenes I think I've ever seen ever. One of the most original. Let's put it that way. I don't think I've ever seen a fight scene in a film that can honestly compare to Chocolate. We've seen many of these sort of superhero films and whatnot where people get knocked through buildings and all that. These people aren't superheroes, they're just martial artists. And what they do at that end fight scene is just crazy. It's just absolutely insane. But so yeah, when it comes to dealing with sexism in films, I don't feel that way at all. I simply want good characters, good storytelling that makes sense. And for the character of Rey, she's just able to do anything. You know, she falls into a pool, she can swim. Wait a minute, she grew up on a desert planet. How the hell does she know how to swim? You know, she can do it all. There's nothing this woman can't do that's not easy for her. She can repair the Millennium Falcon better than the guy who used to own it. She can fight better than somebody who's a trained Sith or trained Jedi. There's no struggle for her, and I think that's the major flaw with her character, and why I'm given what Rian Johnson unwrote with The Last Jedi, whereby he dismissed a lot of things that had been set up for him. And it's not only that as well. If you actually look into it, there's actually an article out there about how he stole some of the story for The Last Jedi from fan fiction. And if you're gonna go do that, and again, like, we're not talking about stealing, like, something that could have maybe been a new idea that he thought up himself. If you look into the article, it's really close to the fan fiction. It's not one thing either. There's like 4 or 5 separate elements that are just like so. And there's the whole race parentage was part of a fan fiction, where it's dismissed as being they were drunk alcoholics that were dismissed as that they sold her off for drink. And as somebody pointed out who wrote the article, was that alcoholism is not something they've really addressed in the Star Wars universe. To call somebody an alcoholic in the Star Wars universe is a bit unusual. There's no other characters in Star Wars that you can honestly look at and go, well, they're an alcoholic. There was the whole thing with Phasma and the stuff, the whole bonding of the minds between Kylo and Rey that was being done by Snoke. That's a big one. There was the whole bit whereby they fight in front of Snoke. That was in the fan fiction as well. And when I say that it was in the fan fiction came out, I think it came out about 2 years before The Last Jedi. So it's really difficult to sort of look at the narrative of that, of the real events, and say, you know, if you're going to tell me you didn't nick this stuff until you can conclusively prove to me that you didn't, I'm going to assume you did. Because it's too close to call. If it had been one element, then you could go, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. But the amount of elements from that fan fiction that wound up in The Last Jedi, that's too much to call. And basically, yeah, it's left me downhearted with the Star Wars franchise, because we had episodes 1, 2, 3, and then for me 7 and 8. So from my perspective here, they've done 5 bad Star Wars films, and 4 good ones. I haven't seen Solo, so maybe Solo is a good Star Wars film. I just don't feel the need to see it. It is a Ron Howard film, so at some point maybe I'll give it a look in. But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna end this stream now. Hopefully, if you've been watching the stream, I want to say thanks to Philip Hawkins for dropping in as well, because he's a considered guy. He's a bit more considered than I am. If you check out his stuff on his YouTube channel as well. So thanks, Philip, for dropping by. Hope you have a fun time shopping. But I'm going to leave the stream there, and if this works out well, maybe I'll do another live stream soon. See you later, guys.